Hey everyone, today I want to talk about 50 books to help on your self-taught journey as an artist. I've divided them into 25 topics in which you may find yourself throughout your journey of drawing. I've left out stylization, so it's something that I'll talk in the end on your drawing expertise and painting expertise. But we'll get there. I've chosen as well 25 main books, for one for each topic, and other ones that are either something to dive deeper into that topic or another way of looking at the same concepts. You may learn better with one or another. I think that's especially true on anatomy, but we'll get there when we get there. So jumping right in, drawing, I think the first understanding of drawing is through observation. So drawing on the right side of the brain is one of the best books on learning how to see. So angles, proportions, spaces, and values, a little bit of colors as well, but especially values. It's one of the best books out there. Even Betty Edwards' workshops are great on that, like 3-day workshops, and people really jump their skills because they jump their observation skills. One of the biggest companions or like material to choose from is Charles Bargue book. It's a method for drawing used in by academic painters from the 19th century and early 20th century. So it was developed with Jean-Léon Gérôme. So very good book as well. You definitely should give that a try. So what I'm talking about, values and spaces, this is a great example. So looking at negative spaces in a drawing is as important as looking at the positive spaces and understanding silhouettes and everything. So that's what this book will teach you. The other book is dive deeper into the topic. It's more on the memory drawing side. So the author goes through exercises as well as concepts of memory, and how can you really get some of that proportions, spaces, and all of that in your brain so that you can draw from memory. So that's basically what it's going to be covering. Next step, perspective. So pretty basic. I've done a video on framed perspective 1, a book review. So if you want to dive deeper into this book, please do go there. But basically everything that concepts of perspective, horizon line, vanishing points, construction, multiple vanishing points, 2 points, 3 points, and all of that you have seen a lot throughout your journeys, or you will see throughout your journeys. So this is a great book on this, and very simple, very a lot of application from the get-go. The next one is like a companion book to this one, How to Draw by Scott Robertson. I really love this book. I've used it teaching perspective throughout the years. I've done a video review here on the channel as well for it. But the biggest difference between this and framed perspective 1 is how he teaches volumes. This is a very important exercise. You've seen most of the people that work on big movies and like big games, they have gone through this kind of exercise and understanding form in a very in-depth way. So I highly recommend doing this. Next, we're gonna work on your craftsmanship. So it's gonna be finally when you're gonna learn how to draw hair. I'm just kidding here, but Marcos Mateo Mestre goes to a lot of techniques, both in pencil, paint, pencil, pens, ink, and digital as well. So it's a great way to start your way into developing your craftsmanship. There are some exercises on both frame perspective 1 and especially how to draw. lines and going through the same line and all of that. But this is where you're gonna really start sharpening the axe and really enhancing your abilities. A great example to go along with this, I didn't bring the book here, but would be the etchings done by Anderson or Rembrandt, other masters in understanding how they do cross hatching and all of that. There is a great tutorial as well, a course on schoolism on the topic of figure drawing. I'll have a link in the description as well. Next step is Color and Light by James Gurney. I also did videos on this topic here on the channel. This is a great way to start your understanding of colors as a whole and how light will interact with volumes. He goes over a lot of stuff. James Gurney has painted with oils, gouache, everything you can imagine, watercolors and so on and so forth. So he really understands pigments and how far they go. So when you are trying to emulate in digital or even using pigments, it's great. He talks about materials, he talks about different lighting situations and all of that. I do have a video review, so definitely should check that out. A great companion to Color and Light is How to Render by Scott Robertson. It's more focused on rendering for industrial design. That's the basis of this book. So it will go a lot into cast shadows, simple volumes, going from primitives and evolving. So a lot of people, as well, as I said before, have done this kind of very simple, if you look at them, and very complex if you try to do them, the exercises. So it's going to be a great companion as well. And he's one of the best people out there rendering metals and a lot of different materials. There are also great materials on schoolism, for example, or tutorials out there to help on your rendering journey. Once you have Color and Light and materials in your belt, it's time to start really painting outside. And I think both these books are great to help that. Landscape painting by Nathan Fawkes is a great one. It will bring a lot of ideas, even of what kits to use to go out and how to start a painting, how to grow color relationships and evolve into a lot of topics of color that you definitely should try out, experiment, and enhance throughout your journey. Urban Sketcher, it's way more towards drawing as well, but I think it's a great practice to go out and draw and paint from the real thing. A lot of artists working in the video game industry or movie industry have went through or either keep doing that. One great example is Dylan Cole, production designer for Avatar, the Avatar series, the sequels now, and a concept artist and matte painter. His work is great. You should definitely check that out, and he's a great plein air landscape painter as well. If you are getting into design, designing Macs, designing anything actually, Mechanica is one of the best books out there. Doug Chiang is one of the biggest names nowadays in the Star Wars franchise as like a creative director and all. So great to see him here and talking about some of the designs even for the movie, how to think design, how to what's the process, creates thumbnails, create marker sketches, and then develop them to a final product. So a great book on this topic as well. This was actually suggested by John Park, a great designer and teacher in the entertainment industry. It's really hard to find design books, so this is the go-to. I would say. Next, H Point. H Point is not focused on entertainment design, it's car design, but it's definitely the best book on packaging I found out there. And in understanding the anatomy of a car, everything that goes into the design, how people will be inside the car, ergonomy, functionality, and everything about car design. I think this is a textbook on designing anything. If you look at the work done for movies, such as I don't remember the name right now, the one for with Tom Cruise, that he has like a very elaborate spaceship. That's a great example of amazing design. I'll add the link in the description as well with more details. But the designer went through the whole process, took almost a year, if I'm not mistaken, to really understand how that would function, even if that wasn't a real thing. So this is the kind of book that will give you that kind of assessment of what it takes to build something that works from ground up and that is usable by human beings. So I think that's really important. Once we are done with design, we can start illustrating, for example. So I think this is one of the best books out there by James Gurney as well on using references and the process of illustration. We're going to have other books covering the topic of illustration down the line, but this is definitely a great starting point. I love the examples here. How he uses references and take pictures and all of that. I've seen too many artists that try and go all the way without references and their work just stays in a plateau and doesn't evolve. So this is a great a no-brainer for anyone that is finding themselves in a situation where they are not growing or can't move forward with their illustrations. Talking about figure drawing, we're going to have a few books here, but the first them is Andrew Lumie's Figure Drawing for All It's Worth. It's definitely a great book on understanding and having a grasp of overall proportions of the body, as well as perspective. That's something that Marcos Mateo Mestre on Firm Perspective 2 emphasizes a lot. He talks about a little bit about cast shadows as well, just as How to Render did, but he goes into a lot of perspective for characters and people. So that's a great addition, and to even use separately or use as a companion to Figure Drawing for All It's Worth. Another great resource, Can Muftik book, Figure Drawing. It's a great resource on drawing from the live figure, so live drawing, going to sessions with models and all of that. This is a great starting point, finding your shadows and understanding even a little bit of gesture. That's what we're going to be talking next. For gesture, I chose mostly animation books, so Drawn to Life by Walt Stanchfield. There are 2 books, so I only counted as one, but there are 2 great books you can find out there. Both are great, and you should definitely buy both if you're looking into this. The idea here in the example I brought is to think about gesture in a very applicable way. So in this example, like talking about weight and how the body changes its way of holding things when they're really heavy. So this is just one example that would definitely help on your illustration process. A great companion to that is the Animator's Survival Kit. It talks a lot about sketch and stretch, gesture, storytelling through animation, a lot of that will definitely be super helpful for your illustrations. And the final one, Force, also a very famous book on the topic of gesture and how to apply dynamic and distribution of weights throughout the body. So definitely a great one to have as well and to go through. Once we understand basic proportion and gesture, I would recommend going into anatomy. Ray Busta's book here. There are lots of anatomy books out there, like Steve Houston, Michael Hampton, Figure Drawing, Design and Invention, Bridgman, even other ones that I didn't bring here. Glenn Vupel has a great one as well. And a lot of others that I'm definitely forgetting. I know you have a favorite anatomy book, so please share in the comments below. And any other books that I didn't cover here, I would love to hear your favorite books in the comments as well. So just one example of what Ray Bustos brings, like he uses a lot of colors. Michael Hampton also uses a similar process to really emphasize each muscle and where it connects and its volume and all of that. So very a great teacher overall. So once we have all that, we go into design. I used like portrait design here, but definitely this goes to the body as well. We've seen a little bit of that in Ken Muftik's book. But definitely Nathan Fawkes has a lot of design choices when he's doing his portraits. So one example here, understanding shadows, understanding edges, when you're going to use the lost edges and all of that. So conveying the form in a very artistical way. So I think once we get to the point where we understand proportions, gesture, and anatomy, we have to go deeper and try really to convey emotion and different ways of painting. We'll get all the way to discussing like alla prima and other great resources down the line. But this is the start of getting deep into drawing and really pushing for a more artistic result. Going into composition, I think this is the best first step for learning composition. Picture this by Molly Bang. It's very graphic design-ish. I don't think this is the best like title for this area. But basically, it uses the example of Red Riding Hood. So it's great to understand like size and convey storytelling with just geometric simple shapes. This is the beginning of storytelling that we're going to see in other examples later on. A great book, a great example. So definitely check that out. One of the best books out there. Just the example here I brought. So like the wolf in different situations. If you have pointy versus more rounded, if you have a falling tree instead of a straight one as we had before, different colors to emphasize its size and its position and all of that. So a lot of different concepts here and there. Definitely worth checking that. It's a fast book to read through. Definitely a great companion, especially if you're teaching someone else about this, even like bringing to children and really helping tell a story if they're learning to draw. The next is composition of outdoor painting by Edgar Payne. I think this is one of the most famous books on composition. We're going to talk a little bit about framed ink later on. Is a big one as well. But he goes through like painting process and some guidelines. We really need to try and not get too caught up with rules. That's what Edgar Payne says in the book, and what other great artists like Craig Mullins have said. But looking at the examples and reading through the text and what he thinks, the way he thinks, and how to convey what he is trying to convey in his paintings, and some things not to do, but take that with a grain of salt. Like, it's not, there are no rules, as I said, but this is amazing starting point and guidelines, even to learn some of the rules and break them when you need. Next step is storytelling, illustration and storytelling. I think the best book for that is Creative Illustration by Andrew Loomis. A great way to deep dive into the topic is a book on writing scripts for movies, Story by Robert McKee. That would really start your engines in storytelling mode. I think that's also a big flaw in a lot of artists out there. They don't think about the story that they're trying to convey with their illustration. And this is definitely a great one. One example here, just zoom in a little bit. He talks about composition as well, and value structures to convey and guide the eye. But he talks a lot about storytelling, illustration market, different applications of illustration, and a lot of that. So definitely a great companion to have and read through again and again. I've heard an interview with Carla Ortiz where she was saying that she went back to the book years after being an illustrator, and she started really understanding and having a better grasp on some of the concepts, especially like how to distribute texture in light or in the shadow areas, and that will help convey more light into your illustration. So a lot of small things that we take time to get to our heads. So definitely a great book to check out. And we finally get to the famous framed ink on composition topic. I decided to label this area cinematography because framed ink, it's about storytelling more than anything. Marcos Mateo Mestre is a great layout artist and director nowadays on this topic for the animation industry. So definitely, if someone knows how to convey story, it's him. You've probably seen this example using values and lines in your animations to really get the story and the emotion and the action that you need. So definitely one of the best books out there on this. And I've added 4 extra books here because they're really good. Hans Bacher, another big name in the animation industry, talking about compositions here, using a lot of like Disney movies in the process of developing them. So yeah, a great read overall. Even if you are just a Disney animation enthusiast, it's a great read. Vision, more on the use of color in telling the story. The Visual Story by Bruce Block is a great book on breaking down movies. So I think if you are into cinema, you should definitely check that out. A lot of people recommend this book, especially people that work with keyframe illustration. So a great one. And Framed Ink 2 has just come out. I have bought mine recently. Haven't had the time to go through all the content, but a great deep dive from Framed Ink 1 in storytelling for movies and all. So the next topic I want to talk about is art history. And the book I chose is The Story of Art by Gombrich. This is a very beginner's kind of approach and has a lot of flaws as well. It's not the best book. I don't have any other starting books on the topic, but I think it's a great way to start a conversation, especially bringing architecture and art in their development, especially in the Western world. Gombrich doesn't go any deep into Eastern production and there are definitely flaws in this, but I think it's a great starting point on this topic. And a great companion is A Global History of Architecture, focused on architecture, but it goes very deep and covers all across the globe in different time periods. So definitely worth checking that out. The illustrations are also great in this book, so worth your while. Just one quick example from the book. A lot of great art by Bernini, for example, and other great names from Western art history. That will definitely help, especially the architecture side, on our next topic, that is world building. Here, for concept artists, I think this is one of the biggest topics and books. If you are into drawing and designing and all of that, I've talked about that in other videos here on the channel, especially my video on 1-year guide to tutorials on drawing by the Foundation Group. That's like a great companion material for this kind of books, like How to Draw, Frame Perspective, Mechanica that we talked before, H-Point, as well, getting all the way here to world building. Skillful Huntsman takes one story, a short story, and breaks that down and creates the visual development for that. It was done in the Art Center College of Design, one of the biggest names of schools out there teaching concept art. So definitely worth looking at that and understanding. Those artists are great, working in the industry as well. So really worth checking that out. And a great companion to that is The Art of Seed Mead, one of the biggest names in world building for movies like Blade Runner and all. So definitely should check that out. He recently passed away, so it's super sad. But it's great to have lived in his time. So yeah, definitely worth checking that out. The next topic are animals. First, as we did with proportions with Loomis for the figure, we're going to do the same with Joe Heatherly for animals. Great book on the topic. Great illustrations and guides to using simple volumes to block out gesture and all of that in a lot of different types of animals. And diving deeper into the topic and expanding to creature design. Tara Whitlatch definitely is the biggest name and one of the best teachers on that topic. So she has 3 books. I decided to add those 3 here. These 2 Science and Principles of Creature Design are focused on that, exploring anatomy like this, the breakdown of every animal and how to translate that to imagined creatures. And her book is almost her art book, Animals, Real and Imagined, but the drawings are beautiful. So especially her sketchbook drawings of animals, it's worth buying the book, if only for looking at that. It's like a tabletop book as well. Your guests will love to flip through that when they have time. The next book is one of the best I could find in process for designing creatures and characters. There are some books by the publisher 3D Toto. I don't have a lot of them here, so I don't know which one would be the best. I've seen a lot of more art books and talking a little bit about process, but this one goes way deeper into ideation process, iteration process. It's almost like gamified to some extent and has some challenges here and there. So I think it's a great one. And as a companion, Evan's book, it's super hard to find the books because they were published through a Kickstarter and all. But he has a great Domestika course on character design. So definitely worth checking that out. I think that's the best piece of content in this specific topic. So it's not a book, but definitely, if you can buy his books, they will definitely help you out. And finally, last but not least, I divided into two areas: drawing expertise and painting expertise. Here's where you're gonna dive deeper. You have experienced a lot to this point, so like all those topics, and went through a lot of stuff, and now it's time to really find your voice. You can go deeper into methods for drawing. This book is great on that. Harold Speed goes very deep into, for example, like using mass drawings and not focusing too much online, and creating a better readability through your drawing and process and all of that. So it's a great discussion on the topic as well. So if you are more into the fine art area, or want to develop your drawing skills as a whole, that's definitely a great book. But also looking at a lot of books out there for art, for like art books, looking at other people, what they do, how they do it. This is where like stylization would come in. So if you want to stylize more, you will get books from animation people, or people that work in specific areas, like Sergio Toppi, that is a comic artist, a graphic novel artist. So great inspiration there. I brought like 3 of big inspirations for myself. So Elisa, really easy to find the book, and the other ones are not that easy. Claire Wendley and Joe Cooper. So those are big influence on me. So I wanted to bring them here on their use of line and the results in drawing. So that's really, really interesting to take a look. In painting expertise, definitely Alla Prima, best resource out there. But a great companion is Harold Speed's book on oil painting as well. So both are really great. One example that comes to mind is the palette exploration. I went through that in my video review for Alla Prima, so check that out if you're interested. But he really emphasized the importance of understanding your materials to the point of like really making charts of all your colors, all the colors in your palette, and how they mix with all the other colors. So he goes through all the charts he did, and he says that he does that like over and over again, like a few years apart, to really have a grasp of the materials and where to put the right color when they need that. And one example for going deeper into ways of painting, you should definitely check out like 3D Toto. As I said before, has a lot of books on painting and art books from people. Design Studio Press also has great ones. So this one is from Design Studio Press, if I'm not mistaken, from Paper Blue. It's a big influence on me, but you should definitely find your influence to yourself. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I would love to hear your books, the ones that have impacted your journey, or the ones that you like the most. Please do comment here. I'll read through every comment, and it will be great for the community to have a conversation and find other books. All links will be in the description for the books. Some of them are harder to find, as I said. There is a great art book store called Stuart Ing. I'll have a link in the description as well. You can find really rare books in there. They're gonna be pricey, some of them, but it's the best resource on finding those books. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like the video and share with anyone that might be interested in it. If you want to see more videos on art, please subscribe to the channel. If you are already subscribed, thanks for coming back, and I hope you all have a great day, and I'll definitely see you in another video.